Okay, at this particular place, we will be right by the Sea of Galilee. And this is the place, this would have been the first time that he came here and then asked Peter if he could use the boat. He could use the boat, and then he rowed on the boat, and then he preached to the crowd from the shore over here. This is the place where Jesus appeared to his disciples after he resurrected from the dead. This would have been the third time that he appeared to them, the first 2 times in Jerusalem, and this is the third time. And he said to them, I'll meet you in Galilee. And also at this place, this is the place where Jesus restored Peter back to himself and asked him 3 times, Peter, do you love me? Jesus was standing right there near the steps, and he knew exactly where to find them. He knew exactly where to find the disciples of the Lord. And so they were about 100 yards away, and he said to them, do you have any fish? And they said, none. Lo, or none. And then Jesus said to them, throw your net to the right side of the boat. And they caught a lot of fish, but their net was not broken. And so when they caught a lot of fish, they said, it's the Lord. It's the Lord. Why? Because the first time they met the Lord was also the same way. 3 years ago, when Jesus was just here, he was actually Peter, James, and John, they were already cleaning the nets. It says in the Bible that they were fishing all night long, and they did not catch any fish. And so Jesus said to them, may I borrow your boat? And so they said, yes. And so Jesus rowed in the boat. He pushed the boat a little bit off the shore, and the crowd was here, and he taught from the boat. So he spoke to the crowd from the boat. And then after that, then he returned the boat. And then he said to them, go to the deep. And Peter says, but Lord, we were fishing all night long because you said so, we will do it. And so they went not anymore here, where they are used to, but they went to the deep. And they caught a lot of fish. They caught a lot of fish, and that was the first time they met him. And so this time around, they have been with him, and they were also fishing all night long. And so when they caught a lot of fish, they said, it's the Lord. And so immediately, Peter jumped into the water and went to the shore. And you see here, in fact, Peter says, depart from me, Rabbi, for I am a sinful man. When they caught a lot of fish, he realized that he's dealing with somebody that is much, much greater than he is. And so the first time they met the Lord, they were fishing all night long. They did not catch any fish. And then this time they have been with him, and it happened the same thing again. They were fishing all night long, and they did not catch any fish. And yet, when the Lord gave a command, one of them is, go to the deep, and the other one is throw your net to the right side of the boat. It says in the Bible, when they came to the shore, they caught a lot of fish. How many?
153.
153. That's one of my passwords. 153. And I always wonder, did they really count? Did they really count? Did they really count? It seems to me that fishermen, when they catch a lot of fish, they just say, we had a good day today. But, the Bible mentions the number. Now, everything in the Bible is not there accidentally. It's there always for a purpose. Every word and every number that we have in the Bible has a meaning. And so I remember being provoked by this, and so when I was at the tour guiding school, I asked the teacher, does 153 mean anything to you? And he said, yes, there's a meaning to it. Because there is a book called Natural History by Pliny. He said that the total number of species of fish during the time of Jesus was 153. In the first century, right at the time of Jesus, the total number of species, different types of fish during the time of Jesus is 153. And so there is a message to us. We are called to be fishers of men. Now, so that's the first part of the story. The second part is also very touching. I love the second part. Jesus said to his disciples, first of all, inside the church was the place Jesus already had a charcoal fire burning. And he put already some bread on the charcoal fire. And then he said to his disciples, bring some of the fish so that we can have them for breakfast today. And so they brought the fish, and it was cooking right there over charcoal fire. And I find this very touching, this particular moment. Why? Because this is the first time that they are again together. The last time they were together was at the Last Supper. And Jesus gave them already his parting words at the Last Supper. Met him, and so they're here together. Somebody among the disciples was feeling uneasy that morning. Who was that?
Thomas.
Peter would have been very uneasy. Peter always likes to sit beside Jesus. And so Peter was feeling uneasy, more so. Why? Because he was looking at the charcoal fire. And when did he deny the Lord? In Jerusalem? It was over charcoal fire. He was warming himself over charcoal fire right there in Jerusalem. And here he is sitting with Jesus. He told everybody right there in Jerusalem, I do not know the man. I do not know the man. And after he denied him 3 times, he heard the cock crow. And then he remembered what Jesus said. And it says in the Bible, and he went out and he wept bitterly. He was so sorry for what he did, that because of tremendous fear for his life, he told everybody, I did not know Jesus. When all the time he spent day and night with him. And so he was so sorry for what he did, but he never got a chance to say, I'm sorry. He saw Jesus died on the cross. He never got a chance to say to the Lord, I'm sorry. I'm sorry, Lord. He was not able to, oh, how I wish I could tell you, Lord, that I really love you, but I was so afraid. He never got a chance to say, I'm sorry. And so now, this is the time they're again together, right here. And they were sitting down. And this is really something. Let me ask you first something. Because every scripture exposes our heart. It's good to always put your place in that situation. Has anybody here been offended by anybody? Have you been offended? Saktan ang loob. You know, saktan ako. What is your natural response? It's good to know what your natural response is. So that because we have to know the condition of our heart. We cannot go on with life not knowing what we really are and not being honest as to who we are. It's good to always be honest. You know, 1/3 of my life I spent in the Philippines. 1/3 of my life here in Israel. And 1/3 of my life now I'm spending in the United States. And so I have been formed by the different culture that I find myself in. The Filipino part of me, when I am offended by somebody, is avoidance. Avoidance. If I were Jesus, I would probably say, alin na kayo, kain na kayo, but I would not ask Peter. I would not ask Peter to come and sit down with us. And if the person that offended me is going this way, I would always not be. I will try to avoid that person as much as possible. That's the Filipino part of me. American part of me. American part of me is confrontation. Confrontation, if I were Jesus, I would say, how dare you, Peter? How dare you? You told everybody that you don't know me. Why? And that's the time I needed you the most. Why did you tell everybody that you don't know me? That's the American part. And there's that Israeli part of me. And I still do it. The Israeli part of me is I'll probably collar him and say, get out of here. You told everybody you don't know me. I also do not know you. You have no part of me. Get out of here. And that's the Israeli part of me. When I'm offended by somebody. All of this takes place, when I'm angry and upset. These three things would come out, either avoidance first and then confrontation, and then I isolate that person away from me. And so these are my natural response. Now, we don't stop there. What our natural response is. We see how Jesus responds. Because we have to learn His ways. And so what is the Lord's way? The Lord looks beyond the act. He looks beyond the act. He does not dwell on the offense, on the act, but He sees what is in the heart. He sees what is in the heart of Peter. And so instead of asking Peter about the act, He asks what is in his heart. And He turned to Peter and He asked Peter, Peter, do you love me? I would probably melt at that point. The one who knows you the best is the one who loves you the best. Jesus knew Peter. Jesus knew Peter that he really loves him. And so if somebody kind of like got you, exactly understands what's going on inside of you, don't you feel so loved by that person? Jesus turned to Peter and asked Peter, Peter, do you love me? And then Peter, oh, what a relief. He probably was so happy. He says, Lord, you know all things. You know that I love you. Finally, he is able to say to the Lord, I love you, Lord. And there's also another thing about the Lord. When you express your truest feeling to Him, He opens His heart to you too. And what did the Lord say? Feed my lambs. Now you have to hold on to those words of Jesus, because this is the way we can express our love for Him. That whatever we learn from all the trials that we experience in life, whatever we learn, we pass it on. Feed my lambs. Those that are just like little children that are going through the same thing that you have experienced in the past, and you have learned something from the Lord. Pass it on. Help them. Be with them as they are struggling. As they are struggling, the things that you've learned from the Lord, you are to pass it on to others that are new in it, like lambs. And then Jesus asked him again. I love this about the Lord, because He pursues us. He does not stop. He keeps pursuing us. Have you ever felt that when you're running away from Him, that He meets you at every corner? Kind of like He meets you at every corner. And He is the Lord. The Lord pursues us. And so He pursued Peter. because he knew that as Peter was denying him, his heart was being hardened. And so he wanted to soften already the heart of Peter, because he has work for Peter to do. And so he pursued Peter again and asked Peter, Peter, do you truly love me more than all of these other disciples? And the Peter says, Lord, you know all things. You know that I love you. And Jesus said, feed my sheep. Let it sink, because those are the words of the Lord to us. Feed my lambs. Feed my sheep. And then the third time, take care of my sheep. And there are many people that are suffering right now, even in your own neighborhood. Take care of my sheep. Just pass on to them the love that you have received from me. And this is what the Lord wants us to do. And today, we are going to do something. I know that all of us have admitted that we have been offended, which is a part of humanity, a part of our thing. Now, wait a second. This as the unloading point of our pilgrimage, which is just our second day unloading. If you have been hurt by somebody, you need at this point to forgive that person. To forgive those that have offended us. To forgive the people that have offended you and that have discouraged and disappointed you. And the thing is, we are to forgive those that have hurt us. Why? Because if we do not forgive, our hearts become as hard as a rock. You cannot feel anymore, di ba? Nawawala na ang pakiramdam. When we get hurt, and if we hold a grudge against that person, our hearts become as hard as a rock. Also, another thing, it's a heavy thing to carry day and night. Oftentimes, when I'm upset with somebody, I say, how dare he think of me that way? In the morning, I wake up, and then at night, before I go to bed, how dare he think of me that way? And yet that person that you are upset with is having a wonderful time of his life, right? And yet you are so miserable because of the pain that he had caused you. Now, I call this as the unloading point. Why? Because I'd like you to deal with it now. If you have been hurt by somebody, if you have a heavy burden that you carry in your heart, this is the time to unload. Do not bring it back with you to the Philippines. Do not bring it back with you. Leave it here. Leave it here. And so I would say you stand right before here. And I tell you, deal with it squarely already. And ask the Lord. You stand here and then you face the sea and ask the Lord, Lord, I have been hurt by this person so many times. And I have forgiven him so many times. It seems to me that he will always hurt me. And I don't want it anymore, Lord. You can be so honest with him. He knows. And you tell him, I can't, Lord. But I ask you right now to fill me with your love. And I release that person to you now. That I shall no longer be the one to deal with him. That you be the one to deal with him. Deal with that person. I'm releasing that person now, Lord, into your hands. And fill me with your love that I may be able to serve you well during my time here on earth. Now, I tell you something. The thing that helps me the most when I'm finding a hard time to forgive somebody is when I hear the Lord ask me, Exie, do you truly love me? Do you truly love me that you would be willing to forgive this person? Oftentimes it's our spouse that hurt us the most. It's our children, or even our own brothers and sisters, even the people that we cannot run away from because they're a part of us. And the closer they are, the deeper is the hurt. And yet, that is where the Lord starts. The one that's closest to you is the one that God is using for you to be able to forgive, and so that you would have effective prayers afterwards. Your prayers would be heard by God, and you would see miracles taking place because you are already soft and filled with God's love, and that's really worth it. Worth it more than anything else. You have to release that person, okay? So today, I say, find some time over here, right by the Sea of Galilee. Deal with it, and then take a rock. Find a rock. And then throw it right into the sea and let it sink there. Do not swim after it. Nagbago isip ko. Do not swim after it. Leave it there and let it sink, and it is taken off you. Then turn around, go to the church. And right at the church, there is a stone right inside the church. It's called Mensa Christi. And that's where the Lord restored Peter back to himself. That's where he restored Peter. And so you go there and then affirm to the Lord how much you love him. And then ask him to use you during the remaining days of your life. You never know how long our life will be here. And so let's not waste it hating somebody. Let's not waste it in that.